Welcome in, everybody, to the CFB Nation All-America podcast. I'm Bill Trocchi, senior editor at sportingnews.com, alongside Bill Bender, our national college football writer at sportingnews.com, and the president of the Football Writers Association of America. We're coming to you live on our CFB Nation YouTube channel again. If you want to go subscribe, just go to the youtube.com, search CFB Nation, and click subscribe. Bill, I've got an unusual setting today. I'm coming to you live from Bobby Dodd Stadium. You can see the Jackets practicing over there on their bye week. I got an interview with Brent Key later today. They were nice enough to set me up in one of their little suites to do the show today. So we're excited to do that. And it's time to get ready for week 11.
Yeah, another week, obviously, the first week after the playoff rankings and, the immediate, the schedule's not great. People say that all the time, but that's when things get crazy. So, I'm looking forward to it right off the go here into Friday night. You got a good game with Memphis and USC also in the college football playoff rankings and moving up in the Big Ten. Got a chance to win there. So, it'll be a fun week.
Yeah, no, we've got a lot to talk about. Want to get into Deion Sanders in Colorado a little bit before we get into our viewer's guide. And then, of course, the confidence contest where you and I struggled, but we struggled at the same time. So it's still good made for TV as the race gets tight down in November. But first, let's get into some Trocchi trivia. I'll ask a question, and then we will revisit it at the end of the show. You have a story on Navy quarterback Blake Horvath today at sportingnews.com. I encourage everybody to read it, our Notre Dame people, especially with Notre Dame facing Navy this weekend in South Bend on Saturday night. My Trocchi trivia question: who was the last Service Academy player and last Notre Dame player to finish in the top 10 in Heisman voting? Who's the last Service Academy player and the last Notre Dame player to finish in the top 10 in Heisman voting? We'll revisit that at the end of the show and see if you can come up with that one. You got to
I think I got
think about that one a little bit, but we'll see how you do. I'm confident you're very good at those, but let's get into the first topic is Colorado. Before we get into the whole, what's going to happen this weekend and everything like that. Their last two games, they've not been competitive. They lost 53-7 to Utah and 52-17 to Arizona. And both games were long over at halftime. They were down by at least 30 in both games. So the whole season hasn't been a disaster. They beat Iowa State 24-17. They lost to BYU by 3. That was BYU's. They have had 2 3-point games this year. One of them is Colorado. They're undefeated, of course, and they're in the top 10 of the rankings. They lost to Georgia Tech by 7. Georgia Tech's top 20 team this year. So just do you have any theories on what has happened? Did they just quit on them? They're going to freshman Juju Lewis to start this week after Caden Salter and Ryan Staub have done nothing. Staub came off the bench last week, threw 2 passes. They were both intercepted, and he went back to the bench. So things are not good in Colorado. He's had a surgery midseason. I don't know. What are your thoughts on Deion and what's going on?
Well, for everybody that said this was going to change football 2 years ago, everybody's off that bandwagon now. That's as predictable as the day is long. They can't stop the run. Give up 422 rushing yards to Utah, and then over 200 last week. 200 rushing yards per game allowed. I'm trying to look up right now if that's the worst in the FBS. It's got to be pretty darn close at this point. They rank – how many teams are in the FBS? They have the 3rd worst rushing defense in the FBS.
Right. I just thought people like playing for them, and they're not giving the effort right now. It's clear they're better than this. Come on, right? So
maybe they're not. That's the thing. When you're giving up 50, they've lost 4 of their last 5. They had some close losses, to your point. Yeah, they played BYU tough. BYU's undefeated. Right. Looking at the last couple games on the schedule, they could beat West Virginia, but that's on the road. They're probably not going to beat Arizona State, and they're probably not going to beat Kansas State. So what are we looking at there? We're looking at 3-9, which probably to me means Deion's probably gone. And he can. I mean, obviously he's coming off. I'm not going to speak about, the battle he had with bladder cancer. That's on its own. I'm glad he's alive and healthy, but without Shador and Travis Hunter, feels like, maybe they go somewhere else. I don't know. We'll see.
I think he can write his own ticket at Colorado.
Right. Like if he retired or said, I'm good, it's going to be, the story will come and go, and, be kind of like Belichick. When Belichick leaves North Carolina, we'll just chalk it up to, I would say, did we have this conversation on the one where it was like, was it a net positive or a net negative at Colorado? I would say it's still a positive. You had a Heisman Trophy winner. You went to a bowl game. You created a lot of interest in the program, but the problem is you're probably going to end up there right around 500 during his tenure, and that's probably where it's going to end.
Right, and how much more attractive is it now than it was before? Did you leave the program in a better spot? They had their shooting star type of thing. Is it sustainable for the next guy? Is there a foundation in place? The last 2 weeks, it doesn't look like it. So,
I mean, before he arrived, the 7 seasons before that, I mean, they won no more than, they had 7 straight losing seasons before he arrived. They had the 1 year, and then even before that, it's rough. I mean, we've had Brian Howell on this show several times to tell us just how rough it was. So, yeah, like you said, I think, is it in a better place? I would argue yes, because he proved you can bring a Heisman Trophy talent there. And but I think they need to build the program probably a little bit in a different way. And, it's being exposed in the Big 12 this year that if you can't stop the run, you're not going to be very good anyway.
Yep, very true, very true. All right, let's get into our viewer's guide for Week 11. Week 11 already. I mean, we always say the season goes fast. This one felt like it was on hyperdrive for some reason. But anyway, we're already into Week 11. Friday night, we got a little decent appetizer. We got Northwestern going out to number 19 USC, like you mentioned. That's a Fox game at 9 o'clock. USC looking to build some momentum down the stretch. And then on ESPN at 9, we've got Tulane at Memphis in the American. Tulane, of course, led by John Sumrall, who's been linked to a bunch of jobs. Seems to me to be a good fit at Auburn, but anywhere in the SEC, really. And Memphis right now is they're not number 25, but they are the 12th seed in the college football playoff mock bracket as the group of 5 representative. So they would kick off at Georgia in the first round and in the current iteration of the CFP bracket. So couple of games to keep an eye on Friday night, eh?
Yeah, I mean, Memphis, Tulane, obviously, that crowded American race. I think the berth will come out of that conference, and you have six teams with 1 loss in conference play, so they still have a lot of things to sort out. The one advantage that Memphis has, despite that loss to UAB, is Tulane's coming to them, Navy's coming to them. I think that Navy-Memphis game could decide who goes to the conference championship game. And the interesting thing is, I think South Florida is still in the mix. And if the Bulls were able to win out, and you look at their schedule, they got to play at Navy. They play UTSA this week. UAB Rice. Could they get in as the group of 5 team with 2 losses based on their non-conference schedule and what they did there? I think that's very possible with South Florida. So that they're the other team I'm kind of keeping an eye on, especially if they get a rematch with Memphis that they lost 34-31 a couple weeks ago. And then, it's not in this window. San Diego State's the other team to watch. They play at Hawaii. I don't know if that's one of those midnight kickoff games this week, but they're another group of 5 team in the mix. And then USC, they're at home, right? So I think less worry about the Friday night travel thing. And as I shared with you and our editor, Elliot Ponold, you're going to hear the phrase cumulative conference winning percentage a lot over the next couple of weeks when it comes to Big Ten championship tiebreakers. And USC and Oregon, the cumulative conference winning percentage of their opponents, USC 25-23, best among the Big Ten contenders. Indiana, by the way, 15-33. So when people say the Hoosiers haven't played anybody, I'll leave uncomfortable silence there.
So, and is Northwestern over 500 in the Big Ten? Because that would help them, help USC. Uh, they might be at this point. But anyway, yeah, something to keep an eye on there. And if you're an Auburn fan, tune in to Tulane. Check out Summerall. See what you think if you're not familiar with them. So anyway, all right, let's get into Saturday, the noon window. Number 7, BYU at number 8, Texas Tech. Noon on ABC. Texas Tech is a 10-point favorite. Game day goes to Lubbock. This is first of 2 games between these two. Who knows? BYU, they're undefeated. They have 3 one-score wins against Colorado, Arizona, and Utah. Texas Tech, 7-1. Their loss is to Arizona State, 26-22 on a touchdown in the final 30 seconds. So they are close to being undefeated as well. Their 5 wins in the Big 12 have come by an average of 28 points, and all by at least 20. So they have taken care of business, except for that Arizona State game. Both teams ranked in the top 10. What do you see here? All I know is there's no tortilla throwing in this one, but I do think there'll be a lot of tortillas thrown during the game day show before the game.
Yeah, I mean, this is a chance for both teams to flex, obviously. And I do think there's an opportunity for both of these teams to get in the college football playoff if they play 2 games. And the math on that would be Texas Tech wins this one, and then they both go to the Big 12 championship game with 1 loss. And then, it wouldn't matter at that point. If Texas Tech beats them again, maybe BYU would still have a case. They'd both be under that 2-loss mark. Texas Tech's defense is the question, or not the question, the theme,
the story. They're number 1 in the Big 12, and they're number 1 in the Big 12 in total offense and total defense.
Yeah, 271 yards allowed a game, and Texas Tech historically is not known for defense, and I think that's the big story here. Rodriguez, Bailey, some of the difference makers they have on that side of the ball, a chance to, like I said, go out and flex. I know both of those guys are up for several defensive awards. And then BYU, like the team that we just chronically don't respect. They're good. They run the ball well. They got the freshman quarterback, Bear Bachmeier. They've been tough. They were 9-0 last year. They're right around the same part. I think they're ranked exactly the same as last year, if not 1 spot difference. They find ways to win. I like teams that find ways to win. They don't have more talent than everybody else, but their defense only allows 17 points per game too.
Bear has a brother named Tiger.
That makes sense.
And he plays for the Cougars. So what do you think of that? That's a lot of animals right there.
He's a tough kid. I know everybody just if he wore 8, people might not care as much, but he aside from the jersey number, he's a tough kid. He's a really good player.
Number 47 will be under center for that game. So that's good. All right, keep the clicker handy in the afternoon. We got number 2, Indiana at Penn State. That's the big noon game on Fox. Penn State looking like it's about to drop to 0-6 in the Big Ten. Amazing. Number 5, Georgia is at Mississippi State at noon on ESPN. State has been tricky at home. They beat Arizona State, and they lost to Tennessee and Texas in overtime. So Starkville has been a little difficult on opponents. We'll see what happens with Georgia. Georgia has a penchant for winning close games this year. They may have to get into another one there. And then we've got Colorado, who we already talked about. They are at West Virginia on TNT. Let's hope they can stay in it by halftime at least. And then number 1, Ohio State is at Purdue at 1 on the Big Ten Network.
Yeah, Mississippi State's covered 4 of the last 5 weeks as an underdog, and like you said, they've made interesting games in Starkville. There's no question. They had the overtime loss to Texas, the overtime loss to Tennessee. The only blowout loss was Texas A&M. They lost 31-9 in that game, but every other game has been entertaining. And Georgia, let's be honest, has been 10 points or less in most of their games. So, I think that could be an interesting game. Nothing else really grabs me in that new window. Ohio State's going to do what Ohio State does. We talked about Colorado. I mean, I see another really large spread for the Buckeyes, and they, they've covered every week but one. Covered in every Big Ten game, and they've been
That's
really
the theme.
tough.
They're too good. They're boring. They're too good. That's the theme about Ohio State right now. If you're outside of Columbus, they're too good. It makes everything boring. But a good thing you're not going to be available during the noon window. Can you tell our audience about Bill Bender Elite?
Yeah. Well, no, I'll be around. I think we'll be up in Canton by then, so I'll be watching the games and still doing the weekly college football playoff picture. But yeah, we have a lacrosse tournament. Bunch of freshmen are going up to Canton for a tournament, and they want to play under the name Bill Bender Elite. I have the sweatshirt right here.
Yeah, let's show the sweatshirt. Come on, we got to see the merchandise.
Like, I was gonna wear it today, but there's the sweatshirt.
Bill Bender Elite.
There's our logo. So yeah, I don't know.
The irony is Bill Bender's never played a lacrosse game in his life.
But I've coached a lot of these kids, and we're gonna have fun up there this week. So we'll lean into the name. That's what I told him. If that's gonna be the name, and my name's gonna be on the bracket, then we'll definitely lean into it. But yeah, I'll be. Come on now, I'll be in front of the TV.
Whatever device you need, you'll be in.
Yeah, I mean, we'll probably drive up in the morning. I'm technically off, but as you know, I'll still do the playoff picture and get some things done. But by the time, I'm sure we'll be settled into the hotel by the time we get to this 3:30 window, which is honestly, Bill, to me, the most intriguing window of the day.
All right, yeah, we'll kick it off with number 9 Oregon at number 20 Iowa. 3:30 on CBS. Oregon is a 6-point favorite. This game should not be on CBS, coming from someone who has followed the SEC for a long time. But anyway, Oregon's resume got picked apart a little bit this week in advance of the committee's first rankings. They ended up number 9 after being number 6 in AP. There's not much meat on the bone. I looked up the rankings of all 6 of their wins. According to the Athletics, 136. They rank all teams 1 to 136. Each week, they beat an FCS team, and then 123, 52, 112, 66, 71, and 95. So they don't have a top 50 win. They don't have a top 10, don't have a top 25. They don't even have a top 50 win yet. This would qualify, of course. So this is a really big game for them. Like you said about BYU and Texas Tech, they need to flex a little bit, and I think they need to flex a little bit here. Iowa, they were also receiving votes in the AP, but I think the committee recognized they're doing some good things. They put them at number 20 in the CFP rankings. They're 4-1 in the Big Ten, 6-2 overall. They're only giving up 15 points a game in the Big Ten. On the other hand, Iowa QB Mark Gronowski ranked 17th in the 18-team Big Ten as far as passer rating is concerned. Fun game.
Yeah, we had a little bit of a back and forth in our sporting news meeting. Look, the Oregon-Penn State game is a better win than it looks. Like, it was a huge game at the time. And we ignore that some. I went on a couple rants about that on the air yesterday over some different radio hits, but I know Penn State's lost 5 straight games, but it's still, if Penn State wins that game, like we could do, they might be 8-1. That's my thing with Oregon. That was
my counter to that is like Penn State didn't look good in their 3 cupcake warmups either. They weren't sharp. They were like, people were complaining. They were still like, this is not what we expected. They expected a roll and just look sharp, and they didn't look sharp in those games. They didn't look sharp the first 50 minutes against Oregon. And then, of course, they've lost 5 straight. I don't know. I mean, I get that it was a huge game. You were there, tough environment for Oregon to win, and they pulled it out, and they did a good job, and they ran the game. They were winning for most of the game, then pulled it out when it really got sticky at the end. But you can't deny that win has become devalued.
It doesn't to me, like, at all. Like, because that's how the season they outscored their first 3 opponents 132-17. How is that not? That's not looking bad.
Oklahoma State
they played Nevada, FIU, and Villanova, but they still.
Penn State. Sorry.
Yeah, Penn State. Like, I'm saying, you can say it hasn't aged well, but to me, I was there. Like, it was a top 5 game. You can't bill a game top and then Penn State's terrible. Like I really believe if Penn State wins that game in double overtime, they're probably 8-1. So like that's to me. Otherwise, then with Miami, it's like, well, that South Florida win doesn't. Of course, those games matter, but I don't. To your point, I think we're devaluing Oregon a little bit. I think they're going to beat Iowa pretty handily, honestly, and that will be reflected in the confidence contest. And I know Iowa better be able to throw the ball, and I think Oregon is a good football team that we've kind of brushed aside just because Indiana beat them. So, I mean, like I said, these games have to matter at the time. It's like Penn State, I understand that they've lost 5 straight games and that their season, like, well, what did you expect? Drew Aller got hurt for the year. They fired their coach. They did all these emotional things. But had they beat Oregon, all they'd do was score in double overtime. There'd be a lot of different – we'd look at that game a lot differently, I think. So, but yeah, I think to me, that's probably the game I would zero in on. I know Texas A&M plays Missouri too, but I don't know that Missouri can win that game with a backup quarterback. It's the same thing. Like, are we going to say Vanderbilt or Alabama's wins against Missouri are different if Missouri loses their last 4 games? What we'll say? Well, they have a backup quarterback. I could say the same thing about Penn State the rest of the season.
True. That is true. Iowa did better against Indiana than Oregon did. Iowa did better against Indiana than anybody's done, really.
Kind of, yeah, but they got to be able to throw the ball. I get that, and that's what we're going to find out in this game. I would like Iowa more if it was a night game. I think because it's 3:30. I just think I'm thinking Dan Lanning's read a lot and heard a lot of this. That's an average team, or then saw them slip down the rankings, and that's all he needs. So
agree. That is definitely a factor. It's a great point. He thrives on that stuff.
So when if Iowa can't throw the ball, I mean, this is the same Iowa team that people were picking Rutgers to beat early in the season, and I watched that game. So it's not. Yeah, they got a good defense, and it's a big moment, but. We'll get to that one in the confidence contest, no question. I'm trying to think what I put in the sporting news picks. I probably could have gone more, but I think I made it like we'll talk about, I'll find that. I'll dig that up for the picks.
All right. Also at 3:30, number 3, Texas A&M at number 22, Missouri, 3:30 on ABC. Texas A&M is a 7-point favorite. The A&M continues on its quest to go undefeated and make its first SEC championship game. The question in this game is at quarterback, like you mentioned, for Missouri. Bo Pribula is out for the season after getting hurt at Vanderbilt. Freshman Matt Zoller came in to that game. It was 3-3 in the third quarter. He had 4 possessions. He led them on a touchdown. He let them drive to a field goal. They missed the field goal. He had a critical fumble on a mesh play that was very freshman-y, and that was critical. Vanderbilt took the ball and drove down for a touchdown, and then he drove him into Hail Mary range at the very end and actually completed it down to the 1-yard line on 4th and something crazy. So basically he was good in a tough situation. He ended up 14 for 23, 138 yards and a touchdown off the bench in the second half. Hard to predict how he will handle his first start. He's had 2 weeks to prepare. They had an off week after that. So, and then of course, Missouri has the number 1 defense in the SEC. So how do you see this one?
I like A&M. I think A&M, it's hard to pick backup quarterbacks. Maybe they hang around, but and again, to go back to that cumulative conference winning percentage. Remember this term. Like I said, I did the SEC context clue for our audience, and that we will have a lot of these kind of tiebreaker type pieces next week. So I'm doing the homework now. Texas A&M, the combined record of their conference, or the combined conference record of their SEC opponents on their schedule, who they played, who they haven't played, 13-30. So another team that we can say, yeah, you haven't really played anybody. But they will play a couple teams here down the stretch, and they did beat Notre Dame in non-conference play, and that helps. So this is kind of big win for them if they can get that. I think they'll win. I just when you have backup quarterbacks in games, it's hard to trust them. He had an extra week. That's fine. He might make some plays, but you're playing a really good Texas A&M defense with Cassius Howell. So I like the Aggies big in this game.
All right. Now let's keep your eye on the 3:30 window. Syracuse at Miami is a 3:30 game on ESPN. Iowa State at TCU is the 3:30 Fox game. Auburn at number 16 Vanderbilt is 4 o'clock on the SEC network. And Mr. Belichick, Stanford at North Carolina, 4:30 on the CW.
7.5 favorite, I think. Are they a touchdown favorite in that game? I think they are.
Carolina's a touchdown favorite.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Bill's got Andrew Luck, Bill Belichick, 7.5 point favorite for the Tar Heels. Who knew?
So that'll be a fun window, especially those first two games we talked about in the Big Ten and the SEC. All right, Saturday evening, I think the headliner, LSU at number 4, Alabama, 7:30 on ABC. Alabama is a 10-point favorite. The last time, this would have been too difficult for Trocchi Trivia, but the last time an unranked LSU team beat a ranked Alabama team was 1993. And that upset was actually in Tuscaloosa. But so only 32 years ago, right? It could happen again. No?
Right.
Anyway, Bama beat LSU 42-13 in Tiger Stadium last year. That was the second of the 3 home blowouts that Brian Kelly suffered and that helped get him ushered out the door. Tennessee got them bad in 22 and Bama in 24, and then Texas A&M a couple weeks ago. Will Frank Harris give this team a bump? He's a popular dude, did okay as head coach at UTSA. Bama's had an off week to sit back and watch all these shenanigans going on in Baton Rouge. The new president promoted the interim AD on his first day on the job. What can go wrong there? That's solid vetting right there. So LSU is kind of a mess from top to bottom. I'm a little surprised the spread's only 10.
Yeah, but I mean LSU, the coach bump, they had been challenged for 2 weeks, and that's not LSU football. Those kind of things, big rivalry game. I mean Alabama's tough at home. They've allowed 24 points or less in all of their SEC games. They went through the grinder, 4-0 against the spread at home. I think they'll take care of business here, but you always leave that because there's LSU guys on the field and there's Alabama guys on the field and there's a familiarity factor. This, for the better part of the 21st century, has been the best game of the year. And it still has a chance to be. Brian Kelly beat Alabama a couple years ago in this game where nobody expected it. It was just like this, set up to be. So I think Alabama, their path to the SEC Champions open. Ty Simpson trying to push into that Heisman Trophy race, 20 touchdowns, just 1 interception.
Yeah, he had a bye week last week, so he kind of the talk quieted around him. He can bump it right back up this week.
He's probably the one guy that could challenge Julian Sayin because he's in control, and Marcel Reed for that matter, the 2 SEC quarterbacks in charge of the 2 teams that are undefeated in the SEC. So I'd look for both of them. Yeah, and I saw in our comments, by the way, Marshawn Nealon died. That's breaking, by the way, over 24-year-old defensive end for the Cowboys. So prayers to his family. That's, I'm sure, something that's going to be talked about here for the next couple hours. That's shocking. Yeah. I just clicked on the headline. So,
wow.
So prayers to the Nealon family. Dear Lord, I'm sure the details will come out over that.
Sure.
Wow. But, getting back to football here, that's kind of a shocker, man. Like I said, Alabama, LSU, it's for Alabama, it's probably just take care of business in this game. Try to avoid the upset.
I was looking at the series through the years, and it seemed like maybe 10 straight years Saban had Alabama ranked in the top 5 at this point in the season. They always play in early to mid-November. And every year, LSU's playing number 2, Alabama, number 1, Alabama, number 3, Alabama. And then last year was actually number 13, and Bama smoked them. at 13. So that was, quote unquote, the worst Bama team they've had to face in the last 10 years. And it did not go well. They're back in the top 5 now. So we'll see how it goes for LSU. As far as the rest of the evening window, we've got Navy. It's at number 10 Notre Dame, 7:30 on NBC. 4-4 Florida State visits 3-5 Clemson at 7 on the ACC network. You don't see those records with those teams too often. Clemson has incredibly lost 6 of its last 7 home games. Do you remember when they were unbeatable at home, Bill?
They had like 30 plus game win streak at home at one
1-6 in their last 7. It has turned quickly in Death Valley. Wake Forest visits number 14 Virginia at 7 on ESPN2. The Cavaliers need to just keep taking care of business with that lucky sword of theirs that we talked about last week. Cal is at number 15 Louisville at 7 on ESPN. That's another ESPN2, and that's another big ACC game.
Yeah, a lot of ACC, the mess, whether it becomes more of a mess, that's this window.
It's crowded up there.
It's very crowded. I was on ACC Today this morning on Sirius with Roddy Jones and Wes Durham. I know you know Wes, and we were kind of going through the mechanics of that and how Notre Dame, I think, we talked about Notre Dame, Miami, and wrote about that this week. But the Notre Dame, this could be the first year where that Notre Dame arrangement is directly going to keep an ACC team out of the playoff. And I wonder what the ramifications will be of that. And we don't have to rehash all of the things that we know about Notre Dame playing half of its schedule against ACC teams and how that impacts. But I do think it could directly keep a Georgia Tech or a Louisville or a Virginia out of the playoff, because Notre Dame at 10-2 is in. A 2-loss ACC team probably not in, and we'll see how these losses stack up for the conference. We had talked about earlier that with Brian Driscoll about how I kind of think this is the Big 12 this year. We could have a team that's not ranked right now win the ACC, like Duke or Pitt, who's on the fringe there at 20, in the late 20s. So this is that window where we're going to see some ACC craziness. I like I said, we wrote about Blake Horvath today at Sporting News. Good kid, Campbell Trophy finalist, on pace for 1,500 rushing yards. That doesn't happen often. You look at the list of guys that have done that: Jordan Lynch, Lamar Jackson, a couple others. Malcolm Perry, the Navy quarterback, has the record. But Navy will look not to turn it over 6 times this time. And if they do that, they're in big trouble.
That one got away from them quick.
Yeah, I talked to Blake, though, last week, and he is an eternally good kid. Can't wait to see, what he does in this game. Obviously, a nearby kid, too, from Hilliard, option quarterback in high school, and has done a good job as Navy's option quarterback this year.
No question. So, yeah, that's always a fun one to watch. A lot of tradition in that game. All right, let's get into the confidence contest, then we'll get back to the Trocchi trivia game. You and I both went 1-4 last week. Not good. But I got my 4-pointer. You got your 3-pointer. So I won 4-3. That was our worst week of the season. Season total stands Bill Bender 85.5, Trocchi 84. So it's 1.5 points. But I maintained the honor of picking first. We pick 5 games against the spread every week. We order them confidence style, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So my 5-pointer, the game I am most confident in. My theme this week is picking against teams that are struggling. So I'm taking West Virginia -6.5 against Colorado. I don't know how you pick Colorado at this point. They've like I said, they were down by 30 at halftime the last 2 weeks. They're starting a true freshman. They changed their offensive coordinator, didn't tell anybody about it. Now he's hinted that he did it. As things are just falling apart. And so I'm going to take Rich Rod in West Virginia. They had a nice win last week at -6.5.
Well, Father Penny's asking how you get a 0.5 point, which, unlike in real life, we
if you push on a 4-pointer, you get 2 points.
Yeah. You push in real life, you don't get it. You don't get it. You're right. You might get I think you get your money back.
You get your money back.
You get your money back. So the way we do it is if, for example, on a 5, if you get a push, you get 2.5. So
yeah, if we didn't feel like you should be penalized as if it's a loss and you get 0, but you obviously shouldn't get full credit either. So
half
if
credit.
it's a push, you get half of whatever points you assign.
I think I made that ruling because I got sick of losing pushes, and I get a lot of pushes in these picks at Sporting News. So my 5's going to be up again. You know me, I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. I'll say Oregon minus 6.5. Take that. I think they're going to win by. In the Sporting News picks, I have them winning by 14. So that would entail that. I think Dan Lanning's heard the noise. I think they can run the ball. I think they have good defense. And if Iowa can't throw the ball in this game, they're in trouble. Now, can they get after Dante Moore? Does he make good decisions? I could see this being very comparable to the Wisconsin game that they won like 21-7. I could see this being like 24-14, 24-13 type win for Oregon. But Dan Lanning, I'd like to be in that locker room to hear how he's telling them how much they're being disrespected right now. It'd be great.
Oh, yeah. I can see Oregon winning in a rout. I can see Oregon winning a close one. I can see Iowa maybe having like 2 special teams touchdowns and getting the win. I don't see an Iowa blowout. That's the one outcome I do not see in that one.
One stat about Oregon real quick. 6-0 in 6-0 straight up in Big Ten games that require travel of 2 time zoners or more. They are oblivious to that. They've played through that trend. Go ahead.
Their only loss is at home, right?
Yep.
And since they joined the conference. So all right, 4-pointer for me. I'm taking Alabama. LSU is -10. Alabama -10 against LSU. LSU is in complete disarray. Bama coming off a bye week has everything in front of them. LSU has not played inspired football all season. After that Clemson win, they will need to be inspired to hang with the Crimson Tide. I just don't see it. I'm picking against the circus team. Bama -10.
Not a bad pick at all. I'm taking A&M -7 in the other one. I think, road game, road test, but again, backup quarterback, and this Texas A&M defense pretty good too. Maybe Missouri can hang for a minute. They have the 2 really close losses, but I think A&M eliminates Missouri from playoff contention. They do their best with a backup quarterback, but I could see the Aggies winning by like 10 points. So I'm going to stick with them. And, if you're the number 3 team in the country, you go out and prove it.
I will disagree later in the contest.
Okay.
3-pointer, I'm taking UCF +1.5 over Houston on Friday. You knew I was taking the Friday night dog, right? The Friday night home dog. I love it. I love Houston this year, actually. They were upset last week by West Virginia in a sloppy game. They had lots of turnovers. Now they're kind of out of the Big 12 race. UCF is actually 4-1 at home, losing only to Kansas. They beat West Virginia pretty bad earlier this year. I'm going with the Friday night home dog magic.
Yeah, I don't hate it. I don't typically pick Friday night games, and I like relaxing on Friday night.
But you tried to, and then it didn't go well. So
I'm taking Cal +20, and I know they have to fly across the country and all that, but that's a huge spread in a wild ACC, and Cal's been competitive in a lot of those games. So I don't think Cal is going to get smoked by Louisville. I think they'll hang around and contribute. Now they've been doing a lot of, I believe they've been home, away, home, a lot of traveling for the Golden Bears. That could wear on them, but I like them to cover in this game. If you're giving me 3 touchdowns, I'm going to take it. So I'll take Golden Bears to cover that 20.5.
I'm staying in the ACC, picking against another struggling team. I'm taking Miami -28.5 against Syracuse. Ever since Syracuse beat Clemson, they've lost 5 straight by an average of 21 points a game. They started a freshman walk-on quarterback who's a lacrosse player last week over Ricky Collins. He went 4 for 18 for 39 yards. So they're bringing back Collins. Basically, everything is a mess since Steve Angeli got hurt for them. Miami, on the other side, they badly need to show and show out and just move up the rankings. They've got the revenge factor from last year, of course. So I can see them trying to pour it on as much as they can.
Yeah, and we love our lacrosse players, though, man. But I don't know, man. Hey, you know
Not
what?
that one.
Mine. When Grant plays football,
Hopefully he's better at lacrosse than he is at playing quarterback.
Well, yeah, Grant played a little quarterback. My son, and they do. I wonder. So did they say what? I want to know what position that kid played in lacrosse because Grant was goalie to quarterback. It was kind of cool watching that. 2-pointer Vanderbilt -6.5.
Ooh.
If you're a playoff team, go show it. If you're not, you're going to go screw around with Auburn. Don't do that. I mean, Auburn, obviously, another team that you're walking into the coach bump, but I like Vanderbilt here. I like their offense. I think they're still one of the more high-powered offenses in the SEC, and Auburn is not. So, if they can handle Auburn up front, not make mistakes. I like how they closed the Texas game. I think the Commodores know there's no margin for error, and the committee's watching. So you better win by more than 6. I like them to cover that 6.5.
Yeah, the thing that scares me about that is Auburn's defense is great.
They
have not given up more than 23 points all season. There's only 3 teams that can claim that: Ohio State, Indiana, and Auburn.
Yeah.
So, and Auburn has had their coach fired. So it's hard to score against them. So 6.5. I still think they can do it, but I stayed away just because I can see Auburn really shutting down the offense for a little while. So anyway, I'm going with my number one, like I promised, Missouri +7 against Texas A&M. Missouri is the top defense in the SEC, and I thought Zollers, like I said, he had 2 weeks to prepare. He looked pretty decent against Vanderbilt. It's risky to take a freshman in a big spot like this, but I think the defense can keep a low-scoring game within a touchdown.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, that'll be a big swing game then.
Yep.
That was your one?
Yep.
Okay. I'm going to go Florida -3 against Kentucky. I think Mark Stoops is close, and the Gators they've got the talent to do it. It is up at Kentucky. That rivalry, they get after each other a little bit too. So I don't think the Gators are going to be, they played Georgia tough last week. They're not going to quit in that game with Billy Gonzalez. I like the Gators to go up there and win a tight one. Probably another, like I said, man, I pick a lot of SEC games. I got to stop doing that. Get back to my roots. But yeah, I like the Gators at -3.
Yeah, Florida, Kentucky. It just kind of heated up about 8-10 years ago, and it really hasn't cooled off. It was just a one-sided, beat down for Florida for years and years and years. Then all of a sudden it kind of got heated. So anyway, all right, let's review the picks. I've got West Virginia -6.5, Bama -10, UCF +1.5, Miami -28.5, and Missouri +7 against A&M. You've got Oregon -6.5 at Iowa, Texas A&M -7 against Missouri, Cal +20 at Louisville, Vanderbilt -6.5 at home against Auburn, and then Florida -3 against Kentucky. All right, let's get to I'm going to pass you this week, by the way, just so you know.
Okay.
I'm planning on it. Let's get to the Trocchi trivia question and see if you can nail that on our way out the door. Give you some momentum heading into the weekend. Who was the last Service Academy player and the last Notre Dame player to finish in the top 10 in Heisman voting?
Sounds like the period's over at Georgia Tech. Was that the horn?
It was the horn.
Yeah, they're on the offensive line install. The Notre Dame player is probably Monte Teo, right? Unless it's not.
Monte Teo, is that what you said?
Yeah.
2012, correct. He finished second, but he's not the most recent top 10 finisher.
Top 10. So they've had somebody in the top 10 since. Ian Book. I'm gonna take the lifeline from Father Penny.
Ian Book, 2020, finished number 9 after getting ND and ACC regular season title and college football playoff.
Funny, I think I know the Navy guy, no doubter. I think it's Keenan Reynolds.
Keegan Reynolds, 2015 Navy is a correct answer, but not the most recent.
So then it's probably Malcolm Perry.
It is not Malcolm Perry.
So then who's the other quarterback? That's 19. Then they had another quarterback. Yeah, I'm
I'll give
losing.
you a hint. You're not even with the right team.
You said Navy. What do you mean?
It's not Navy.
What's the other half of the question?
I said Service Academy.
Oh, Service Academy. It wasn't just. I thought you said Navy since it was okay. Now I'll get it.
Service Academy. Sorry.
The most recent Service Academy guy to finish in the top 10 was probably. Well, I just put that list in the article. Was it Ahmad Bradshaw?
It is not Ahmad Bradshaw, but he was on the list.
Oh my gosh. Then Air Force had a quarterback a couple years ago. Who was it? Like I give up.
2024 last year.
So it's
Army.
Bryson Daly. Okay,
Bryson Daly finished 6th in the Heisman Trophy voting last year.
In that Blake Horvath article we did today, I do want to throw that out there for the listeners and give them a reason to click on this article. Hold on. Well, it's not on Google search quite yet, but so we'll get that going. Anyway, the guys that are in that top 1,500 yards or more rushing. I mean, like I said, it's Jordan Lynch and Lamar Jackson and
Lamar Jackson twice.
Bryson Daly. Lamar Jackson did it twice. So, Blake Horvath not only has a chance to do that, he also has a chance to be like for Navy's first. I should have asked you that. The Navy's had like 2 quarterbacks ever pass for 2,000 yards, and Blake Horvath has an outside chance to do that. So, he'll need to do some magic for them to hang in this Notre Dame game. But that he's a really good kid.
Roger Staubach the other one, or was it something?
No, his last name was Kubiak. So and it's not like Gary Kubiak or anything like that. So Service Academy. I got to pay that. That's what I tell my daughter all the time. You got to pay attention to the question. So that's on me.
That's all right. That's all right. Good job. All right. Well, that was a really fun show. Thank you to everyone for coming here on our YouTube channel at CFB Nation. Thank you to everyone for listening to the CFB Nation All-America podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. We will be back Tuesday morning, 9:30 a.m. for our live show to recap all the Week 11. And then it's TBD if we're doing another show next Tuesday night, but we'll definitely be Tuesday, Thursday morning, 9:30 Eastern time. So thank you also one more time to Irish Breakdown, your source for Notre Dame football information. Enjoy the weekend, and we will see you next week.